welcome once again to Let's Talk Marriage. This is Pastor Larry coming to you this Wednesday afternoon with Let's Talk Marriage. All right. Hope everyone is doing well. If you woke up this morning, you got to be doing well. All right, we're going to get right on into our program today. We're going to be talking about keeping the flame burning in your marital relationship. Keeping the flame burning in your marital relationship. Now, we all have seen movies and everything, Lifetime and Tubi, uh, where you see the people all romantic and running in the park, holding hands, walking in the rain, and all this, and they then sometimes they have a crazy view of how couples are supposed to be. But when you have married your soulmate, and you've married your soulmate, and you have a good spouse, a good husband, make sure that we are keeping the flame burning. Make sure you are, first of all, make sure you are continually being friends with each other, and you should be friends with each other, and should have been friends when you married them. That's why I always say on the program, or we always say on the program, to make sure you know who you are marrying. Make sure you know everything about them, so there'll be no hidden agendas, no hidden surprises, or anything like that that may come up. So we have to make sure that we are staying involved with our spouses. Make sure that we are loving on our spouses each and every day. Make sure you tell your spouse every day that you love them, because you never know, because life is so short. So you want to make sure that you show each other loving and kindness and show support. We've always talked about that on the program by showing support to your spouse. And you should be supporting each other. And there's nothing wrong with loving on each other. There's nothing wrong with being romantic with each other. If you want to be romantic with your wife, that's your business. Our job as ministers is not to be in someone's bedroom. I'm not here to tell you what to do in your bedroom, but what I'm suggesting or telling you is that we make sure that we keep the coal and the fire burning in our relationship. There's nothing wrong with being romantic with your wife. Just because you are saved, sanctified, or whatever, does not mean that you can't be romantic with your spouse. Be romantic with your spouse. Put on a little music. Some people say, "Oh, you ain't got no people putting on that." Put on a little music. Put on a little music sometimes, and hold your wife close and talk to her, and things like that, to keep the flame burning in your relationship, because we don't want our spouses to be feeling neglected, feeling like they're not loved, and watch how we talk to our spouses. Sometimes, and I had to work on that myself, even myself. Watch how we talk to our spouse, because sometimes you might not think that you're raising your voice or yelling or anything like that, and sometimes you are, and our wives are sometimes very sensitive to things, and because they have a lot on their plate. Wives have a lot on their plate, and most 95% of the wives now that we is very seldom, or you hear of a stay-at-home wife, or stay-at-home spouse. Most wives that work outside of the home as well as take care of the home. So we have to make sure that we are loving on our wives, and make sure we are saying kind things to them, not yelling at them, not raising our voices, not getting upset with them about things that they might suggest to us. Because us as men, we don't like when our wives give us suggestions, even though a lot of times when they give us suggestions, they're good suggestions, and a lot of times they're suggestions that save us money. And I noticed something about my wife. She always does things to make my life around the house, because I do most of the work, because my wife is still working and I'm retired. So I do most of the work around the house. So she does try to make sure that everything, she does everything to make sure everything is easier for me to do around the house. Since I handle most of the things around the house now that I'm retired, I don't mind doing it. I love doing it, and I love because I love being retired and catering toward her, and this gives me the opportunity to cater toward her and make sure that she's comfortable and make sure that our family is comfortable. So we have to make sure that we are supporting our wives in every way we think of, and because sometimes when they again back to their suggest sometimes when they suggest things to you, sometimes it might not sound all that good, or you might not receive it all that good. And a lot of times it does sound good, we just don't receive it that good. We have to learn as husbands to receive criticism from our wives, and it's not necessarily criticism; it's just things to help us along and things that they might notice that we might not notice about our about us. So we have to make sure that we are being gracious when they make suggestions to us, and suggest things about the budget and things. Because I know my wife handles the budget, and every once in a while she goes over what's going on in the budget, what's going on in the accounts, and all that. And I'm aware of what goes on in the accounts and how we handle things together. We are a team. We work together as a team, and we make sure things are done decently and in order. And you have to make sure that we are loving on our wives, and I can't stress that enough because we we tend to forget about the things that our wives go through on our daily basis. We talked about that on the program a lot, how our wives go through so much, and especially the ones that work outside the home, which again is basically about 95% of the wives. And wives, if you want something in life, those that don't like working outside the home, sometimes you have to make that sacrifice and work outside the home to help your spouse out, so that way he won't have so much pressure on him. Because as men, minority men, you get enough pressure on your jobs, so we don't need a lot of pressure at home. And it's easy to work together as a team. When you working against each other, that's what makes it hard. And we've always said time and time again on the program that marriage is not hard. If you love someone, it's not going to be hard. Just like if you love a job, that you might have hard work, but the job is not hard. You have to put the effort into it, and that's what the key word is: effort. Not hard work, but effort. You have to put the effort into it, just like a job. If you love it, it's not hard work, but you have to put in much effort. And when you do that, it makes everything run smoothly. And again, you want to be examples as families to our children, our teenagers, our young kids, our even our grade school kids. We want to be example to them. They don't need to see mom and dad always going at each other. And then guess what? They're going to get a spouse or whoever. They're going to get involved with somebody that's doing the same thing to them, because it seems, we need to break that chain where you had problems with your husband or whatever that was violent toward you or abusive toward you, and then your kids end up with the same type of people. We have to break that chain and let them know that there's people out there that are not violent. There's people out there that's not abusive. There's people out there that are not going to put you down every time you say something. We have to let them know this, and then that way that chain will be broken. The same thing with men. If they see dad having issues with their mom, or their mom is not doing what she's supposed to do, and always gone and never at home, and dad is struggling and don't know where she is and all that. Guess what? They more 9 out of 10 times they're gonna get involved with the same type of person. It's a vicious cycle that go around, and that's why we always say on the program, don't let your engagement go a long time. Please don't let it go a long time. Make a decision, make a date. If you're waiting on finances, waiting for each other to graduate, some people, they'll graduate after they get married if they're both in college. But make sure you make that date and set it in stone, make arrangements for it. So you to make it legal, make where you both are legally married. It's nothing wrong with being engaged, but don't let it be too long, because during that engagement time, that's the time you get to know your spouse, know everything about them. So when you do walk down that aisle, there's no surprises. And we want to make sure that when we're in our relationships, that we as men, especially as minority men, make sure we are catering to our spouses, because they have enough that's going on. They have enough competition with other races, because other races don't mind being with minorities, and and it's almost like it's a competition now. Every once in a while, you don't, which is nothing wrong with mixed couples. There's no, I have no problem with that. What I'm saying is, make sure that we are treating our spouses the way they should be treated, and then they won't have to do anything like that, or they won't have to feel like that they can't get from what one nationality from another. They won't have to think that, oh, that people in that nationality, they don't do this, they don't have to think like that. So we have to make sure that we are loving on our wives, and not being abusive or talking down to them. And it's so much of that going on, and men are calling women bees and stuff like that. And when you are seeing someone, make sure that they do not use those abusive terms towards you, and watch how they meet you. If they meet you with some rap line or some slang line or something, be aware. Open your ears, open your mind, and don't fall for all these things, because some of these people out here are just so slick, and they know exactly what to say to you. Be aware. That's why I say, husbands and fathers, make sure that you show your daughters how they should, how a young man should treat them, so they won't fall for all these lines and things that people come up and, oh, I'm a thug, I'm a gangster. You don't want your daughter getting involved with someone like that. So make sure that you are uh, doing what we supposed to do as men in our households, to show our daughters what real men or young men uh, are to treat them. A lot of times, just because a guy is a nerd does not mean you throw him to the curb. Most of the time, the nerdy people are the ones that are very successful in life. They are very focused. That's why they're nerdy, because they're focused, and they're focused on the goal. And those are the type of people that you want to bring home to meet your parents. You don't want to bring nobody that's that look like they just got out the joint. Sometimes, God, the Lord works. God works in mysterious ways. Sometimes He'll let you meet someone, and but it has to be ordained. And when it's ordained, you will know it's ordained. And we said on the program many times that just because you're in church with someone does not necessarily mean that they're your soulmate. And just because they're not in church does not mean that they're not your soulmate, because you can meet your soulmate anywhere. God works mysteriously, and he always laughs at our plans. So sometimes He'll have you meet someone that's not in church, and they'll become your soulmate, because that person He's been watching, and He knows that you are that person's route to salvation. So we have to make sure that we are doing these things as we journey into this role as being husbands and being wives in this generation, because society looks down on marriage. Nobody wants to get married now. No one wants to stay married. And just because you get married does not mean you have to have a big wedding. Plan these things out, and those things should be talked about. As far as children and all that, you should know how many kids you want, if you want to have kids, when you want to have kids, because those things have to be discussed, because children are expensive, with daycare and all that. And then you got to know who's going to be watching your kids when they're little. If the wife or mom has to take off from work, who's going to be watching the kids when she goes back to work, or if she goes back, or if she goes back, who's going to be watching the kids, because you don't want anyone to watch your kids. You have to be very careful. And daycares are expensive. Those things should be taken in consideration. So, in order to keep the fire burning in our marriage, back to keeping the fire burning in our marriage, make sure we are loving on our wives. There's nothing wrong with holding your wife's hand, or giving her a kiss in public. There's nothing wrong with that. And the bed is undefiled. The marriage bed is undefiled. So, whatever you do in your marriage bed is between you and your spouse. Make it joyous. Make it a wonderful occasion, because that actually ministers to your husband as a saint that ministers to your husbands, especially if they're in the ministry, or any role in the church that ministers to your husbands, ladies. So make sure that we are being romantic, and make sure that we are preparing ourselves. Make sure we are planting the seed. If you want to be romantic tonight, plant a seed. Just don't just think you're gonna jump into it. Just plant a seed. By being loving and showing love toward your family, or especially to your wife. This is Pastor Larry. We're going to be signing off until we meet again with Let's Talk Marriage. All right. I want to take this opportunity to invite you out to our services at New Zion Christian Center, where I'm the senior pastor. We're located right now at 15014 Desplaines Street in Plainfield, Illinois. If you have any questions or about the services, anything, my phone number is out there at 708-609-1107. Again, this is Pastor Larry. Until we meet again with Let's Talk Marriage.